The views and opinions expressed on the Cat are those of the hosts. They do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of OldMilk Media. Any opinions stated aren't intended to offend anyone. On this episode of the Cat Podcast, we react to Better Me Than You by Big Sean. Welcome back. This is episode 518 of your critical but accurate tour through Hip Hop the Cat podcast. I'm your tour guide, Nate Sperlin. Taylor is once again off. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever else you might be tuning in. Feel free to go ahead and join the conversation by leaving a comment, liking this video, subscribing to the channel, sharing with your friends. That being said, let's get right into it. And we are talking once again about Better Me Than You by Big Sean. This album is 21 tracks, 1 hour and 6 minutes long, featuring Charlie Wilson, Gunna, Aaron Allen Kane twice, Sid, Thundercat, Bryson Tiller, Kodak Black, Tiana Taylor, Larry June, DJ Premier, Cash Cobain, Nassan, Ellie Goulding, and The Alchemist. This is Big Sean's first album in 4 years since he dropped Detroit 2. And that being said, let's get to the reaction. First off, starting with my expectations. And I expect Big Sean to show us once again why he is regarded as one of the best rappers of the 2010s. I also expect him to address some of the issues he's had with rappers, mainly Kanye West. And I also expect him to continue being vulnerable about his healing journey and to share some of the reflection that he's done along the way. The packaging, I like the cover art. It looks like he's kind of like ascending. That could be a symbolism for the growth that he continues to do with himself. And I've seen a bit of Big Sean interviews and TikToks and those things of that nature. So it seems like there's been a lot done for this to be a big week for Big Sean, a big first week for Big Sean. We'll see if that actually happens. Let's get into my first thoughts. First of all, I'm not really interested in the hit attempts that sound like they belong in the 2010s. Some of the beats kind of also sound like they're trying to recreate Kanye's style. Big Sean's rapping ability is also still sharp. But a lot of the bars, specifically in the first half of the album, feel kind of empty. This album kind of feels like Big Sean was stuck in the middle between giving us hits and then giving us tracks with substance and a message. And I would have liked for Big Sean to trim the fat of the first 7 tracks and focus on the tracks that give us substance. Because again, some of these hit attempts sound like they would be good for like 10 years ago, so like 2014, but not good for 2024. Let's get into the song by song. The intro, the first 15 seconds of the intro, or the whole intro, reminds me of the first 15 seconds of Father Time by Kanye West. Not Kanye West, oh my God, by Kendrick Lamar. All these people that anyway. So instead of a conversation, it's a bunch of sound bites, however. So like on Father Time by Kendrick Lamar, it's a conversation between Kendrick and his girl saying like talking about therapy or whatever. But here, Big Sean is just like a whole bunch of sound bites of people saying, yo, Big Sean, you need to diss this person, Big Sean, you need to make it hit. And basically everything else that he hears from his fans. So I thought that was an interesting way to open up. The first track, Iconic, doesn't move me at all. This is the first example of the hit attempts that I'm talking about that kind of sound a little bit dated and don't really sound authentic to Big Sean, really. Like I'm not like Big Sean, this is his 6th album. He's been doing this for like maybe 10 to 15 years at this point. I don't really care about the hits anymore. I care more about the substance. And I thought Detroit 2 did a good job of focusing on the substance. But here, like I said before, it's kind of split between the substance and trying to make hits. And I don't think any of these hits will really translate. And Iconic is an example of that. Typecast, I like Typecast. I like the flow that Big Sean uses. I like the beat. Mainly it's the beat that I like on Typecast, but that's a solid song. I like Break the Cycle also. I like that Charlie Wilson's melody. There's touches through it. And whenever Big Sean, there are certain times where Big Sean raps certain words, and then you hear the Charlie Wilson melody paired with that. So I like that inclusion of that with it. And on the track, appropriately named Break the Cycle, Big Sean is rapping about breaking cycles. The next one is another hit attempt in my opinion, but this one does go a little bit better, and it's Who You Are. And here Big Sean is rapping about how him and his girl are compatible, how other women might hate on his girl because she's his girl, his dedication to her, et cetera, et cetera. And that moves on into Yes, which I don't like at all. This is I could have done without this. I'm pretty sure this was a song that was getting roasted before it came out. The song that people were comparing to Baby Keem and saying like Baby Keem wrote for Big Sean. So that's kind of funny. I kind of see it. Um, but yeah, like there's once again like a this kind of like mosh pit type vibe that Big Sean is trying to cultivate here. And that doesn't really make sense because Big Sean isn't a mosh pit type of artist. And also the hook, there's like a lot of fat on it. There's like a lot of voice changes and stuff, but at the same time, it's still ultimately like a lazy hook because you're repeating the same thing over again. You're repeating yes over again. Um, on It Is What It Is, I don't think that Gunna and Big Sean have much chemistry with each other. I think that's another attempt for Big Sean to get a hit. Um, Gunna is a hot name right now. He's been a hot name for a while. And that's really the only motivation that I see behind Big Sean recruiting Gunna for this song. I also don't like the Drake style ad libs of when Big Sean ends a line and he says, "What?" Like I don't like that at all. So that's definitely not a song I won't be listening to again. Um, Now, I think this next song, "Apologize," is the first bit of substance that we get. And on "Apologize," Big Sean is addressing Kanye West. And Big Sean is rapping about his relationship with Kanye and how he doesn't really want anything to do with Kanye West anymore. The key line here, I think, is look at you. You're supposed to be big bro, but somehow you didn't grow, which is pretty accurate of Kanye over the past 5 to 10 years. And I think Clarity is a nice touch after Apologize. That's more of a interlude. And on this interlude, Big Sean is talking about his son and talking about the new perspective that he has now having his son. So having Apologize where he's addressing, if you will, the old, and then it translating or converting into the new with Clarity. I thought that was a nice touch of track listing. The track listing is kind of weird throughout. Um, at times it makes sense, at times it doesn't make sense. Um, but overall, I think the track listing could have been better. It's not like Detroit 2's track listing, which I liked more. Um, and now from Apologize, like I said, we start getting more of the songs with substance. So we get On Up. And here we're talking about Big Sean once again rapping from the perspective of him after having his son and his excitement to be a father for his son. And yeah, so I like that. On Something, Big Sean raps about how everybody's dealing with something. Sid adds a nice touch to that as well. Sid also kind of does the thing that Charlie Wilson does, where there are certain words that Big Sean raps where we'll hear Sid's vocals over that as well. And I thought that's a nice touch, like I just said. But yeah, like it's rap like Big Sean is talking about how everybody's going through something, and he's talking about how he himself in particular is always in his head, overthinking things of that nature. So there, we're starting to get a little bit more of the vulnerability and a little bit of the substance that we expected from a Big Sean album, especially at this point in his career. I like the bass line on Black Void also. On this track, Big Sean raps about leaving a relationship. It appears that he's been he's been on the outs with this relationship and it's finally the final straw. And he doesn't he's like the final straw is the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will. So because of that reason, Big Sean doesn't want to do this anymore. I also like how the beat develops in increments. Um every way like until like the midway through the verse, there's like one verse here, so I like how the beat like develops in increments kind of layered on top, so that's a nice feature. um I also like the minimalism of the beat on This and That. Here Big Sean is rapping about his success and people doubting that he'll last this long. I think that this is probably the best Big Sean hook of the entire album. I also think that Bryson Tiller and Kodak Black add a nice touch to it. And then we're moving on to Million Pieces, which is probably my favorite track. And here we get another minimalist beat. This time it's produced by DJ Premier and Hit Boy. And here DJ we get the DJ Premier, the signature record scratches over the DJ Premier beats that we used to hearing. So I like that touch as well. Larry June's verse is nice. Tiana Taylor's vocals are also nice. And we're getting Big Sean rapping about He's reflecting about where he was to where he is now. And then we get you back after that, which that's kind of does it flows better. Everything about Get You Back on paper makes no sense from where it's placed to Big Sean and Cash Cobain being paired together. Like none of that makes sense on paper, but it does come out to be better than what you would expect. Cash Cobain isn't used as a vocal feature more. Like he does have some vocals on here, but it's clear that Cash Cobain's main contribution to this song is the production, and we get a little bit of that Cash Cobain production. It comes out more noticeably towards the end. So that was a good song. I'm not a fan of the beat of Certified. The hook also sounds like 2012. Wouldn't work today. Doesn't work today. Focus is a hilarious skit. I like Focus. That's a very funny skit. Even like today. So I listened to it yesterday and I listened to it today. And even today, like as I'm listening to the skit, still made me laugh. So that's pretty funny. Um, and then we have boundaries, where Big Sean is rapping about needing to set boundaries for people and people feeling entitled to him. That moves on into precision, which also doesn't really make sense where it's placed, because that's more of that seems like a hit attempt also. And I think it would probably sound better with all the other hit attempts at the beginning of the album. I think it's probably the best out of the hit attempts. But ultimately, we're really in this phase of substance and precision kind of maybe the intention behind it was to have a little bit of a break from the substance, but I don't really know if I like that thought process as much. But overall, Precision is still a pretty good track. And now we're down to the last two. The penultimate track, which is On My Life slash Happiness, which on the first part, it's two parts really. Happiness is like an interlude where you have Big Sean interviewing himself basically. And I like that feature. It's like Big Sean as if he was a talk show host and he's bringing out Big Sean so that he can interview him. So I thought that was cool. The track also feels like an outro. The My Life portion feels like an outro, and then you lead into that interlude. It would have been perfectly fine to end there. Um, but yeah, so here we're talking about how well, Big Sean is talking about how the many aspects in which he has grown, and him used it like him and how he used to care about people's opinions. Now he doesn't really care about them anymore. And then finally move on to Together Forever, which originally I was kind of concerned because it's an Alchemist beat and I didn't know if an Alchemist beat would really fit here. I'm used to Alchemist beats being really dark, and that's the reason why. That was the real crux of my concern, that it would be too dark of a beat. But this beat is uncharacteristically sunny for the Alchemist, and Big Sean rapping over it really helps that as well. And for that reason, I can recognize that as a valid outro. So let's talk playback value. Objectively for me, well, no, excuse me. Objectively for y'all, I could see this going 2 weeks. It seems like they pulled out all the bells and whistles to alert everyone that Big Sean has an album coming. Also, some of the memes about Kendrick coming out and then Kendrick getting ready to drop an album and then Big Sean kind of like rushing his release date so that he can get out of the way of Kendrick are kind of funny. I think that kind of adds to the public knowledge that this album came out. So objectively, I think that this album could last for 2 weeks. Subjectively, I think that this album could last for 1 week. The track listing isn't where I would want it to be, and for that reason, I'm just gonna take the songs that I like, and which are mainly the songs where Big Sean is talking about life and talking about something of substance, and just probably not gonna listen to the rest of it. Yeah. So let's get to final thoughts. My final thought is Big Sean delivers another quality album despite the presence of dated hit attempts that ultimately prove to be excess fat compared to tracks with substance. My top three tracks: number three, This and That; number two, On Up; and number one, Million Pieces. And that is episode 518 of the Cat Podcast. Don't forget to leave your opinion of Better Me Than You by Big Sean in the comments below. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Follow Old Milk on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Old Milk Media. Check out oldmilk.co for more information. I'm Nate Sperlin, and we'll be back when hip hop tells us to be. And I am out. Thank you for watching.